the Magic Carpet Man.
The ceiling in your kitchen can get extremely dirty. Grease and smoke from cooking in the kitchen can accumulate on the ceiling, forming a dingy yellow-brown film. In a home occupied by smokers, you can add tar, nicotine, and a whole host of other substances to that list. It can be a challenge to get the ceiling clean. Up on a ladder, working above your head, soapy grease dripping into your eyes. It's not fun. That's why I prefer to let the chemistry do as much of the work as possible. In this video, I'll show you a relatively clean ceiling, a relatively dirty ceiling, and an objectively dirty ceiling, and what you can use to clean each one. We'll start with the relatively clean ceiling.
When it comes to a ceiling like this, you can use just about any kind of degreaser you want. Simple green, the purple stuff you get at the orange store, lots of different degreasers would work just fine. For this particular ceiling, I'm going to use TSP because we've already established that it works very well at cleaning this ceiling. But for a ceiling like this, you may need to use something stronger. For this ceiling, I used Husky 901 Industrial Strength Cleaner Degreaser. It's not only a degreaser, but it's also chock full of potassium hydroxide, which means it's highly alkaline and saponifies the grease on the ceiling. Basically, it turns the grease into soap, which further aids in cleaning it and removing it from the ceiling. Not to mention all of the nicotine and other contaminants that were on the ceiling in this particular case. However, here, we don't have that issue, and it's not even the entire ceiling that's coated in grease. It's really just this area directly above the stove. And as you can see, rag soaked in TSP makes quick work of the grease on this ceiling.
This ceiling may look bad, but it's not as bad as it looks. Unlike this ceiling has been painted in the last 10 years and cleaned once or twice since then. Whereas this home was occupied by a smoker and the ceiling hadn't seen any kind of attention in 30 years or so. Since there isn't a particularly heavy buildup of grime on this ceiling, we can use a product like Simple Green. Just like the Husky 901, we mix it in a spray bottle, spray it on the ceiling, and then wait. Remember, we want the chemical to do the work, so dwell time is important. And as you can see, it's already working on the grease, forming little Simple Green grease droplets. After a few minutes, we use a damp rag and wipe it on, in case you couldn't see it before. That's how dirty the ceiling actually was. Pretty dirty, huh? Now, we can leave it at that, but if your goal is to paint the ceiling, you're going to want to rinse the ceiling next. For this ceiling, I used a vacuum extractor, only because I was pressed for time and needed to make sure the ceiling was thoroughly rinsed. Most people probably don't have access to this type of equipment, so a rag and a clean bucket of water will work just fine. Be sure to work in small sections and rinse your rag often and thoroughly. Finally, I like to go over the whole thing with a dry towel just to mop up any moisture and make sure everything is dry. And that's it. It's really easy when you let the chemistry do what it was made to do. It saves time and elbow grease and just makes the whole job go faster and smoother. Well, that's it. Stay clean.
Magic.